G20 and India. G20 is a forum of the heads of the governments of the 19 major economies and the European Union for global cooperation on international economic and financial issues. The G20 comprises of 19 countries, namely Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, the Republic of Korea, Turkey, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and the European Union, which is represented by the rotating Council Presidency and the European Central Bank as the 20th member. It represents 90% of the global gross national product, 80% of the world's trade, and 2/3 of the world's population. The G20 was established in 1999 to bring together finance ministers and central bank governors of systemically important industrialized and developing economies to discuss key issues relating to the global economy and financial stability. The forum has come into existence with the first summit of the leaders of the G20 held in Washington, D.C. in November 2008 in the wake of the global financial crisis. Since its inception, the G20 has held annual finance ministers and central bank governors meetings and discussed measures to promote financial stability in the world and achieve sustainable economic growth and development. By contributing to the strengthening of the international financial architecture and providing opportunities for dialogue on national policies, international cooperation, and international financial institutions, the G20 helps to support growth, financial stability, and development across the globe. During this period, China overtook Japan as the world's second largest economy, and the replacement of the old G7 or G8 structure with the G20, bringing together the 20 most important economies from both the advanced and the developing worlds. Through consultations and cooperation, the forum played a major role as a crisis manager and successfully contributed in averting further serious consequences of the global financial crisis. Some major decisions in these regards are worth mentioning. In November 2008, the G20 leaders agreed to regulate the hedge funds and the rating companies and sought to strengthen standards for accounting and derivatives. In April of 2009, the leaders pledged $1 trillion to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to help the emerging market countries to offset the effects of the recession. In September 2009, the leaders established a Financial Stability Board to implement financial reforms. Also, they took decisions to regulate tax havens and more than deserving executive pay increase in the banks and the financial institutions. In June of 2010, the leaders agreed to cut their budget deficits to half by 2013 and to eliminate deficits altogether 3 years later. In November of 2010, the G20 leaders agreed to bring development agenda under the G20 discussions. G20 is now perceived as a global decision-making forum for contextual critical global issues that are important for achieving sustainable growth and maintaining stability. The G20 is working towards strengthening the financial system and fostering financial inclusion to promote economic growth, improving the international financial architecture in an interconnected world, enhancing food security and addressing the commodity price volatility, and also to promote sustainable development, green growth, and the fight against climate change. The key challenge for the G20 at the current juncture is to ensure that international policy cooperation is sustained. Further, it aims to enhance in a coordinated manner to be coherent and consistent with the business cycles. The G20 also aims to foster and adopt internationally recognized standards through the examples set by its members in areas such as the transparency of fiscal policy, combating of money laundering, and most importantly, combating the financing of terrorism. Over the last few years of its existence, the G20 has developed a system and a process of working. G20 does not have any permanent secretariat. The presidency is held on rotation by the member countries. there are broadly two channels through which discussions are held and recommendations are arrived at. The first is the finance channel. The finance channel comprises of the finance ministers and the central bank governors and their deputies. The second is the Sherpas channel. In the Sherpas channel, every member country of the G20 has nominated a Sherpa to lead the development agenda discussions. The Sherpas have been tasked by their leaders to negotiate the summit's documents on their behalves. Thus, leaders' declarations are finalized by the Sherpas. The presidency of the G20 invites non-member countries and institutions to attend the Leaders' Summit. Invitation to non-member countries is not guided by any formal rule. There is some informal understanding on this. The number of invited non-member countries normally does not exceed 5. Invitation is extended to give a fair and balanced geographical representation to non-members. Countries presiding over regional forums such as the African Union, ASEAN, APEC, etc. are invited. So far, Spain has always been invited in all of the meetings. In the Seoul summit, it was formalized that among the 5 non-member invitees, at least 2 must be from African countries. The G20 maintain close association with international organizations. On the request of the G20, these organizations provide expert support and advice as per their respective competence. They provide reports and position papers relating to the agenda items. The international organizations which have been involved are the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Financial Stability Board, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that is the OECD, the World Trade Organization, the United Nations, UNCTAD, and the International Labour Organizations. These and other international organizations are also frequently invited to participate in the Premier Forum and G20 Working Groups meetings. The G20 Leaders Summit was held in November of 2014 in Brisbane in Australia. The centerpiece was the delivery of country-specific growth strategies and a Brisbane action plan for growth. The G20 leaders set a goal to lift the G20's GDP by at least an additional 2% by 2018. The endorsement of landmark G20 principles on energy collaboration. Leaders also agreed a G20 energy efficiency action plan to deepen their collaboration on energy efficiency. A commitment to finalize and fully implement the agreed financial regulatory reforms. The leaders noted their deep concern about the humanitarian and economic impacts of Ebola and the commitment to fight the current outbreak and support the international response. China was announced as the host of the 2016 summit. India and the G20. Now let us discuss the G20 with respect to India. India is a member of the G20 since it was established as the Finance Ministers Forum way back in 1999. India is the only G20 member country from South Asia and one of the important emerging market member countries in the G20. India's views, being a member of the G20 and the big economic powerhouse next to the USA, China and the European Union, on how to overcome global challenges with regard to ongoing problems caused by the economic and financial crisis, are increasingly recognized and welcomed. Some important landmarks in India's involvement in the G20 are: India co-chaired the G20 in 2002 and also hosted the G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting in that year. It co-chaired the G20 Working Group on Enhancing Sound Regulation and Strengthening the Transparency and is currently the co-chair of the Working Group on the G20 Framework for Strong, Sustainable and Balanced Growth along with Canada. India is contributing to various thematic issues being deliberated in the G20 such as financial sector regulatory reform, climate change, enhancing shareholding through the Global Forum or the FATF, etc., and growth and fiscal consolidation. During the 10th G20 summit, which was held recently in Turkey, India argued for strict action against terrorism.